Hello everybody, thank you for joining me. My name is Lisa Catino. I'm going to be presenting an instructional video on NearPod. NearPod is an online instructional tool that we use in my school. Its use is really intentional in that teachers create activities using NearPod that students can access the curriculum and apply learning content in a digital platform. So let me show you how it's used. I'm going to go into Google and I'm just going to write in NearPod. I've already created an account, so I'm going to go ahead and sign into my account. You'll see I'm logged in already. It's a single sign-in process, so it logs in from my Google account, which I've signed into. If you hadn't signed in already, up here where it says My NearPod, it would say sign in. But because I've signed in, it says now My NearPod, and I'm going to go ahead and click on My NearPod. And you'll see that there is a place for my Library Explorer, Join, Create, and Reports. For the most part, I usually use my Library and Reports. Now my library allows me to create new content. You'll see I've already created several lessons and I'm going to create another one. So here I'm going to click on Create New and I'm going to create a new lesson. I'm doing a lesson on comparing and contrasting rooms in a house. So really my focus is on vocabulary acquisition. One of the ways that I'm helping my 4th grade students to learn Spanish vocabulary surrounding a home, and I'm doing some cross-disciplinary cultural studies is with using NearPod. So students are able to do self-paced lessons where they can use their vocabulary at their own pace. I will also do this as a class, and I will show NearPod using the smartboard and do it as a whole class activity where all the students are logged into my activity at the same time, and then they respond with their answers. So let me quickly show you how this is done. I've simply highlighted untitled lessons and I'm going to give it a name. And as I mentioned, this is a Spanish class. So quickly I'm just going to add a slide. I'm going to add a content. I've already taken and created some slides in Notebook. I'm going to create a theme over here, so you could select any one of these themes and the color of the font and the background would be the same across. So I'll go ahead and create a new slide. I'm going to add my my slide title, and I'm going to call this the La Cocina. That's the kitchen, and those are going to be the first rooms that they're going to compare. So here I've added a slide of the kitchen, and I could make this bigger or smaller, the pictures. For me, this is a perfect size, so I don't need to zoom in or out, but if I wanted to zoom in or out, I would make the picture larger or smaller in that way. I can also add in some audio, which I've done in some of my other lessons, so let me quickly show you how that's done, very simply. Hola. Vamos a hacer la comparación entre 4 cocinas. Las cocinas son distintos, pero tengan cosas en común. Vamos a ver qué tengan distintos y qué tengan en común. I'm going to save that, and now you'll see my audio bar is down at the bottom. I'm going to save and exit this and save and exit that. So now what I would do is I'm going to quickly add another slide, so I want you to be able to see how this is done. My slides will come up so that these are not student engaged. These are only my activities. These are the content activities that I want my students to look at. Okay, so here again, this is my Venn diagram. I'm going to save and exit. Now the trick to this is that you want to convert and draw this slide so that students have the opportunity not to just look at the Venn diagram, but to actually draw on the diagram. So while it's saving, I'm going to click on that slide and you'll see it's highlighted in orange, and I'm going to say convert to draw. It'll ask me if I want to keep the original copy or if I just want it to be drawn upon. So I'm going to say yes, I'm going to keep the original copy. That serves a purpose for me when I'm doing this as a whole class exercise, in that I can write upon this slide here, and students would write upon these slides here. Let me show you how that looks. So here is where the students would be drawing upon these, and you could see where they have these tools down at the bottom that they can use to draw with. This is a text box, so I can write in here, and I would write some descriptive words. Okay, and then I can move this text box over here into this one, and then it would allow me to draw another text box, or I could hand print like, you know, so. And if you have a touchpad, of course, you would just use your finger. Okay, so I would print like that. Now, one of the downsides, and this is one where they wouldn't be able to interact, so you don't see a text box down here. So I think one of the things that you really have to think about is that in using this is how the students are going to be able to interact, because they cannot record their own voice, though you can record your voice in order to instruct the students how to do the lesson. They cannot record back to you. They can only add in pictures or text into screens that you create as a draw it screen. So let me show you one of my lessons, and it'll allow me to choose a grade. So for example, this one is, I'll show you a live lesson, and they come up with codes. Now the problem for each of these is that the students, if they're doing a self-paced lesson, in order for them to go back and to correct their work, they have to remember the code that they use to log in. Otherwise, it will come up as blank again. So each one will have a new code every time you launch it, unless you use the code that you had used previously. So if I were to launch a new lesson, it would give me a new code. And then I can move through this, and you'll see here there's the audio down at the bottom, and I'll allow all of my devices to hear the sound. And there's some comparaciones that we were doing as a class. The other thing that I can do is I can look at my reports for my classes. So if I go over here, I can see my reports of what my classes have done. So I would look through here, and all of my lessons use Draw It. So I would look at Draw It, and I would see what my students had put in to their Venn diagrams. How did they compare and contrast? Are they adequate? So it allows you to see how they're doing, and it allows them to use technology, integrating that into the classroom structure, as far as being engaged, becoming literate in how to type and use the text boxes, and also how to use that critical content, which is the vocabulary, which is what I'm aiming to get at. I hope this has been helpful, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.